We have been taught to view cardiovascular care as a battle fought entirely in pharmacy aisles. Modern medicine treats the human heart like a failing mechanical pump that requires constant synthetic patching just to keep running. But the exact nutritional profile needed to maintain a strong, steady heartbeat was mapped out perfectly in the pages of our scripture. While modern doctors prescribe lab chemicals, early biblical populations thrived on specific regional crops that cardiologists now prove naturally support vascular flexibility and protect the system from the inside out. It is a stunning testament to God's original dietary design. Right now, we will walk through 12 of these ancient heart-supporting foods. Stick around because item 1 was carved into the bronze pillars of Solomon's temple as a symbol of life, and a landmark clinical trial found it measurably reduced the actual thickness of arterial walls in patients with severe blockages. Item 12. Lentils. The image of a humble red stew sits at the center of one of the most consequential moments in the book of Genesis. Esau came in from the open country, completely exhausted and famished, and he traded his entire birthright to Jacob for a single bowl of cooked lentils. That ancient stew was the foundation of the Middle Eastern diet long before the modern world replaced those nutrient-dense staples with highly processed industrial meat. Lentils provide a massive cardiovascular defense system because they are incredibly rich in folate. Folate is a vital nutrient that specifically targets and reduces homocysteine in your bloodstream. Homocysteine is an inflammatory protein building block that acts like microscopic sandpaper scratching and damaging the delicate inner walls of your blood vessels if it builds up too high. Folate acts as a biological smoothing agent that sweeps through your system and clears that dangerous compound away before it can cause structural damage to your heart. A major 2017 review published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition demonstrated that higher dietary intake of folate from whole foods significantly reduced the risk of cardiovascular events by safely lowering those inflammatory markers. A simple bowl of lentil stew contains the exact biological tools your body needs to protect its own vascular network. Adding a hearty lentil soup to your weekly dinner rotation is an incredibly cheap and powerful way to shield your heart from the silent damage of a modern Western diet. It is profound to think that the same humble bowl of food that satisfied Esau is still quietly protecting human hearts thousands of years later. Item 11. Onions. The Israelites, wandering through the barren wilderness of the Sinai Desert, experienced a deep, agonizing craving for the specific pungent foods they had left behind in Egypt. They vividly remembered the sharp taste of the onions they ate daily, and they wept because they missed the intense flavor that sustained them through their captivity. We have relegated the onion to a simple background flavor base in modern cooking while relying on synthetic beta blockers to manage the pressure inside our chests. But the ancient working class consumed onions in massive quantities and received a powerful dose of a protective plant compound called quercetin. Quercetin safely modulates systolic blood pressure, which is the top number on your reading that measures the absolute force of your heart contracting with every single beat. It works by gently relaxing the tension in your cardiovascular system so your heart does not have to pump so violently just to circulate your blood. The top number of blood pressure dropped by over 3 millimeters of mercury for patients simply consuming this compound. That finding was published in the Pharmacological Research Journal in 2015, and it proves that this ancient staple actively takes the burden off an overworked heart. Slicing raw red onions into your daily salad provides a direct and natural intervention for a cardiovascular system running under too much pressure. The food the Israelites cried out for in the desert contained the exact medicine their exhausted bodies required. Item 10. Barley. The Book of Ruth gives us a beautiful picture of the ancient harvest as Ruth spent her days under the blazing sun, gleaning handfuls of grain from the fields of Boaz. She beat out what she had gathered and carried a massive measure of barley back into the city to feed her mother-in-law. That resilient ancient grain was the backbone of survival for everyday people, but modern food manufacturing has almost entirely discarded it in favor of heavily refined white wheat that strips away all the cardiovascular protection. Barley is completely loaded with a unique dietary fiber called beta-glucan. Beta-glucan acts like a biological sponge, moving slowly through your digestive tract and binding directly to excess cholesterol before it can ever cross over into your bloodstream. It literally traps the raw materials that form dangerous arterial blockages and flushes them out of your body naturally. The European Journal of Clinical Nutrition published a major analysis in 2016, proving that consuming barley beta-glucan significantly lowered harmful circulating cholesterol levels without the muscle-aching side effects of synthetic statin medications. Ruth was gathering a harvest that actively prevented the very blockages that plague modern Western society today. Replacing your morning processed cereal with a warm bowl of whole rolled barley is one of the most effective mechanical defenses you can give your heart. It shows us that God designed our food to clean and maintain our bodies perfectly if we simply eat it the way it was grown. Item 9. Garlic. While the Israelites remembered the onions for their flavor, they also cried out for the garlic that formed the medicinal core of their diet during their intense physical labor in Egypt. Historical records show that the laborers building the great monuments were given massive rations of raw garlic to maintain their physical stamina and keep their blood flowing under brutal working conditions. Modern medicine completely forgot this natural intervention when it learned how to isolate and manufacture synthetic blood thinners in a laboratory. When you crush or chew a clove of raw garlic, it creates a potent defensive compound called allicin. Allicin naturally widens the pathways leading to and from your heart so that your blood can circulate freely without encountering resistance. It works like a natural biological relaxant that opens up the tight, restricted avenues inside your chest without carrying the dangerous internal bleeding risks associated with lab-made chemical prescriptions. An extensive 2016 clinical trial published in the Journal of Nutrition found that aged garlic extract effectively reduced the accumulation of soft plaque in the arteries of patients with metabolic disease. The laborers in Egypt were surviving grueling heat and exhaustion because their daily food was physically keeping their cardiovascular systems wide open and functioning. Crushing a single clove of raw garlic and letting it sit for 10 minutes before adding it to your meals allows that specific compound to form and protect your own heart. It is a powerful reminder that ancient food was always meant to be our first line of medical defense. Item 8. Grapes. Right after the flood waters receded and the earth began to dry, Noah immediately planted a vineyard to begin restoring life to a devastated world. Those early ancient grapes were small and bitter, and completely filled with heavy seeds and thick skins. Modern commercial agriculture has entirely stripped those protective seeds and skins away to breed the massive, sugary, seedless grapes that fill our supermarkets today. And in doing so, they threw away the most powerful cardiovascular medicine the fruit possessed. The seeds and skins of ancient grapes contain high concentrations of proanthocyanidins. Proanthocyanidins are highly active plant compounds that vigorously defend vascular flexibility to keep your blood vessels acting like supple elastic rubber bands instead of rigid lead pipes. They preserve the youthful stretch and bounce of your cardiovascular system so your arteries can easily expand and contract with the changing demands of your day. The journal Nutrients published a comprehensive study in 2019 demonstrating that grapeseed extract significantly improved vascular elasticity and actively lowered heart rate during periods of stress. The vineyard Noah planted was not just producing wine, but was growing the exact compounds required to keep the human heart resilient and flexible. Eating seeded grapes or supplementing with a high-quality grapeseed extract is a direct way to reclaim the biological flexibility that modern farming erased. We are always better off trusting the original design over the modern convenience. We are about to look at the specific dietary fat that stabilizes the electrical rhythms of your heart, but before we do, I want to invite you to subscribe to the channel. We are building a community of people rediscovering how original biblical foods vigorously defend our health, and we would love to have you join us. Item 7. Walnuts. The Song of Solomon contains a beautiful, quiet moment where the speaker goes down to the nut orchard to look at the fresh blossoms of the valley and see the vines in bud. The walnut tree was highly prized in the ancient Middle East for providing deep, sustained energy and rich nourishment in a harsh climate. We have largely replaced the deep restorative fats found in whole tree nuts with cheap, highly refined industrial seed oils that actively inflame the cardiovascular system. Walnuts provide a perfect biological correction because they are uniquely packed with alpha-linolenic acid. Alpha-linolenic acid is a specific type of dietary fat that directly stabilizes the electrical impulses governing your heart rhythms. It wraps around your cardiovascular cells and ensures that the electrical signals telling your heart to beat arrive smoothly and consistently without dangerous misfires or flutters. A 2014 study published in the Journal of the American Heart Association showed that diets rich in this specific walnut fat significantly reduced the risk of cardiovascular events by improving the overall lipid profile and calming electrical instability. The ancient orchards described in biblical poetry were producing the exact dietary fat required to keep the human heartbeat steady and calm. Eating just a small handful of raw, unsalted walnuts every afternoon provides a profound level of electrical protection for your chest. It is incredible to realize that God provided the exact stabilizing elements we need right inside a protective wooden shell. Item 6. Coriander seed. When the Israelites woke up in the wilderness and saw the miraculous provision of manna covering the ground, the only way they could describe its physical appearance was to compare it to white coriander seed. Coriander was such a foundational and widely recognized staple of their daily lives that it served as the ultimate visual reference point for bread sent from heaven. Today we have reduced this ancient spice to a mere culinary garnish, tossed on the side of a plate and forgotten. But coriander seed is deeply concentrated with protective flavonoids, specifically camphorol. Camphorol actively protects and improves the function of the slippery Teflon-like coating inside your blood vessels so that nothing harmful can stick to the walls. It repairs the microscopic damage on the inner lining of your cardiovascular system, ensuring that your blood glides effortlessly through your body without catching on inflamed tissue. The journal Phytotherapy Research published findings in 2018 showing that camphorol profoundly improved endothelial function and shielded the vascular lining from destructive inflammatory proteins. The spice the Israelites knew so intimately was quietly maintaining the slick, healthy interior of their blood vessels during a brutal 40-year journey. Grinding whole coriander seeds into your soups or roasting them with your vegetables is a brilliant way to coat and protect your own vascular network today. Sometimes the most powerful medicine is the one we have stopped paying attention to. Item 5. Figs. David and his men were in relentless pursuit of the raiding party that had burned their city when they found an Egyptian scout abandoned and left to die in the open fields. The man was so physically broken that he could not speak or move until David fed him a piece of a pressed cake of figs. That ancient restorative fruit revived him almost immediately, but modern cardiology has largely ignored the power of whole foods like figs, because the medical system focuses almost entirely on the main pumping muscle of the heart, while treating the smaller vessels as an afterthought. Figs are incredibly rich in a protective compound called rutin. Rutin specifically strengthens the actual structural integrity of your capillary walls, so your smallest blood vessels do not leak or collapse under pressure. It acts like a microscopic scaffolding system that reinforces the tiny fragile tubes delivering oxygen to your deep tissues. A 2017 clinical review in the Saudi Journal of Biological Sciences confirmed that rutin possesses profound vascular protective properties that actively prevent capillary fragility and reduce cardiovascular swelling. The pressed fig cake that brought a dying scout back to life was physically reinforcing the collapsing blood vessels inside his exhausted body. Keeping dried mission figs in your pantry provides a fast, reliable way to strengthen the structural weak points in your own circulatory system. True biblical restoration always reaches the deepest and most fragile parts of the body. Item 4. Mulberries. David was given a highly specific battle instruction to wait in the valley until he heard the sound of marching in the tops of the mulberry trees before making his move. The mulberry tree stood tall in the ancient landscape and produced a dark, incredibly potent fruit that sustained early populations. You will almost never find fresh mulberries in a modern supermarket today because commercial agriculture completely erased them from the global supply chain, since the berries are too soft and bruise entirely too easily to survive long-distance shipping. But by leaving them behind, we lost a massive source of cyanidin-3 glucoside. Cyanidin-3 glucoside is a highly active plant pigment that neutralizes the specific oxidative stress that stiffens the cardiovascular system over time. It hunts down the rogue molecules that cause your heart muscle to become rigid and inflexible and neutralizes them before they can turn your heart into a stiff, unyielding pump. The Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry published a major study in 2016, proving that this specific mulberry compound dramatically reduced cardiovascular stiffness and protected the heart muscle from age-related hardening. The trees David used for cover were dropping fruit that actively fought cardiovascular aging. You can easily find dried white or dark mulberries in health food stores to sprinkle over your morning oatmeal and reclaim this lost protection. It is a tragedy that the modern world traded vascular health for shipping convenience. Item 3. Olive oil. The Book of Leviticus outlines the strict requirements for the ancient grain offerings and commands that the fine flour must be mixed directly with pure pressed oil. Olive oil was treated as a sacred and essential ingredient worthy of the altar, and it formed the absolute baseline of caloric intake for the biblical world. Today, the mass-market olive oil industry is plagued by adulteration, heating, and chemical dilution by distributors trying to maximize profit margins at the expense of human health. But the pure ancient cold press provides an overwhelming dose of oleuropein. Oleuropein is a potent botanical compound that directly prevents the oxidation of harmful cholesterol, stopping the very first rusting process that ultimately leads to arterial plaque formation. It acts like a biological rust-proofing spray for your bloodstream so that circulating fats never become toxic and sticky. A 2015 study in the European Journal of Nutrition demonstrated that oleuropein significantly reduced the oxidation of circulating lipids and actively protected the heart from acute damage. The pure oil poured onto the ancient altars held the chemical key to stopping heart disease before it even starts. Securing a trusted source of single-origin, cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil and using it generously as a daily finishing oil is one of the most important cardiovascular decisions you can make. The ancient standards of purity were there to protect us. Item 2. Clean fish. When Jesus appeared to his followers in a closed room in Jerusalem after the resurrection, they were terrified and thought they were seeing a spirit. He asked them for something to eat to prove he was physically alive and standing right in front of them, and they handed him a piece of broiled fish. That wild, clean catch was a fundamental protein source for the biblical world, providing dense marine nutrition. We have largely replaced that wild supply with farmed grain-fed fish that live in crowded pens and completely lack the original heart-protecting nutrients they were meant to carry. The wild catch of the ancient world was overflowing with eicosapentaenoic acid. Eicosapentaenoic acid is a marine nutrient that lowers blood triglycerides, which are the sticky, thick fats traveling in your blood, and it actively stabilizes existing arterial blockages so they do not rupture. It thins out the sludge in your bloodstream and puts a hard protective cap over any existing damage in your vessels. A massive 2019 trial published in the New England Journal of Medicine proved that high doses of this specific purified fish oil compound reduced the risk of major cardiovascular events by 25% in high-risk patients. The broiled fish Jesus ate in that upper room contained the exact structural fats required to keep human blood flowing smoothly. Seeking out wild-caught sardines or mackerel gives you direct access to the cardiovascular stabilization the ancient world enjoyed daily. God designed the oceans to provide exactly what our hearts need to keep beating. Item 1. Pomegranates. When Solomon built the massive bronze pillars for the front of the ancient temple, he ordered the craftsmen to cast hundreds of decorative pomegranates to hang in rows around the capitals. This fruit was visually elevated as a symbol of life and abundance right at the entrance to the presence of God. Today, our fast food convenience culture has completely dismissed the pomegranate as too tedious and time-consuming to peel and eat. But taking the time to open this temple fruit provides a biological defense system that actively supports the reduction of arterial wall thickness, ensuring your main vessels do not become choked and narrow as you age. The bright ruby seeds contain profound compounds called punicalagins. Punicalagins are microscopic architects that enter your bloodstream and reverse the physical thickening of your main arteries by breaking down the fibrous tissue that restricts blood flow. A landmark 2004 clinical trial in the journal Clinical Nutrition gave patients with severe carotid artery blockages pomegranate juice for 1 year and found that the thickness of their arterial walls was actually reduced by up to 30%. The fruit that decorated the pillars of the temple contains compounds powerful enough to literally reverse the physical narrowing of your cardiovascular system. Drinking a small glass of pure tart pomegranate juice every morning is a beautiful and simple way to keep your main arteries wide open. The ultimate medicine for the human heart was carved into the bronze of the temple thousands of years ago. The book of Proverbs, chapter 4, verse 23, gives us one of the most direct and profound physiological commands in all of Scripture. It says, "Keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it spring the issues of life." That is not just a spiritual metaphor about our emotions. It is a literal biological truth. The issues of life are the physical cardiovascular networks that pump oxygen and nutrients to every single cell in your body, sustaining your physical existence on this earth. Maintaining that system was never meant to be a losing battle, managed indefinitely by modern synthetic chemicals. God provided the lentils, the garlic, the mulberries, and the pomegranates to act as the daily diligence required to keep that system strong. These are foods and plants with thousands of years of documented use and peer-reviewed research behind them, not medical prescriptions. They reveal a divine dietary design where the earth itself produces the exact compounds needed to protect the life God breathed into us. When we recover these forgotten foods, we are actively choosing to align our bodies with the original blueprint for human health. Which of these 12 ancient heart foods surprised you the most? And which one are you going to add to your kitchen first? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this cardiovascular breakdown helpful, please subscribe to the channel so you never miss an update on biblical health. Next time, we are going to investigate the ancient desert root that naturally shields your joints from severe morning stiffness. I will see you then.